It is budget day on Parliament Hill. Good, bad, depends on who you're talking to. The Liberals are getting ready to debate this budget. Billions in new spending expected. CityNews Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac MacSweeney joins us now with what we can expect. Cormac, you're about to get locked up.
Lockup actually begins now. I'm going to be a little bit late signing in. This year, they're doing both in-person lockup plus virtual, thanks to the issues around COVID-19 still persisting through society. So, normally what happens in a budget is that Parliament Hill journalists all get put into a room together and they pretty much lock the doors, lock us in so that we can't reveal any details of the budget in advance. This year, they're doing a hybrid, so I'm going to be covering it out of my office today instead of physically being in the lockup.
Okay, let's hope you have a lot of snacks, Cormac. Let's go through some of the numbers. What we already know is likely to come out today, and maybe some goodies that we could be surprised by. So first, let's talk about affordability. That's the key here. Last couple years, a rise of inflation. It's the highest in decades. So housing is at the root of a lot of these things. Affordable housing, a foreign buyer ban. Let's break this down.
Yeah, so what we're hearing is that there could be a foreign buyer ban. It's something that the Liberals did promise in the election, but it's not going to be anything like no person outside of Canada is able to buy. If they need to buy for work purposes or they're coming here to make it their permanent residence, that will still be allowed. What they're really trying to crack down on is people who live in other countries and decide, hey, I want to buy some investment properties and buy this property, that property, and then cash in on that. So they're trying to crack down on that to try and alleviate some of the supply issues that Canadians have been dealing with. Altogether, reports say that it's going to be about $10 billion in total to try and make housing more affordable for Canadians. And that's all of the initiatives that they're going to be putting together. So that's going to deal with issues around supports for Canadians to help them buy their first home if they haven't moved into a home, as well as trying to deal with the supply issue. And that's one thing that a lot of experts have really pointed to as a big issue is there's just not enough supply. And that is what's causing a lot of affordability issues for housing. And so we should see some action on that today.
We are also expecting a lot of programs, including dental care. We heard, what's the term? I always forget. The supply and what agreement? We just call it the non-coalition. Right?
The confidence and supply agreement.
Rolls off the tongue, yes.
I know. But this deal essentially, which is not uncommon in, European parliamentary democracies. We've seen it at the provincial level, but this is the first time we've ever seen a written agreement at the federal level. Essentially, the NDP said, yeah, we'll prop you up. We'll support you in confidence and supply issues, which the budget is the big confidence and supply matter, as long as you follow through on a number of these priorities that the NDP has. So we're expecting to see some sort of action on pharmacare, something the Liberals basically hit the pause button on when the pandemic hit. Dental care, that's a big new one for the Liberals to be putting in place. But when they launched this agreement, they had a full plan almost ready to go that would allow kids under 12 to get the immediate access. Other issues that could pop up due to this agreement, we could see some more initiatives on climate change, possibly some small business tax cuts. And there might be some initiatives around elections, but that might be done separately from the budget. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it takes some of the drama away from a minority government's budget because, the big question always is, will they survive a confidence vote? Will Canadians be heading back to the polls? And the answer this time will be no, as long as the Liberals live up to their end of the bargain and the NDP says they're not expecting any surprises out of this budget.
There are a whole lot of goodies. As with every budget, we kind of know some of the big things, but then there are things that are just sort of maybes. Is there anything sitting in that category for you right now, Cormac?
Well, we'll see. I think the Liberals addressed some of the climate change issues by releasing their $9 billion climate change plan earlier ahead of the budget. So we know what they're going to be doing on that and those initiatives. I'm going to be very interested to see where the economy is heading. The Prime Minister said yesterday that the economy is roaring back. We saw signs of that in the fall economic update. Where does that go? How much money is the government going to be enjoying out of that? Because we know with inflation going up and oil prices going up, I mean, that's bad news for Canadians' pocketbooks, but it's good news for government coffers. And so they're going to have extra wiggle room to put into a number of different initiatives. We'll see what happens there. But the big thing is, though, as well, we're going to see a bunch of new defense spending. There are reports saying about $8 billion in new defense spending. That doesn't get us to the NATO target of 2% that the government has to live up to. They're expected to present a plan on that in June. There's pressure for Canada to finally live up to that target that we committed to in 2014, especially around what's happening in Ukraine right now and the threat from Russia. We're not going to get there, but this could be the first step towards hitting that goal.
Okay, so 4 o'clock is when we're expected to officially hear more. Cormac MacSweeney will be snack heavy and crunching those numbers. Stay tuned to his Twitter account as well. He's got everything there for you. Can you give your Twitter account a shout out, by the way, for anyone who wants to follow you, Cormac?
Yeah, it's CMAC on the Hill, but we'll also have Epman, Mike Eppel. He's going to be covering this as well from the business side. Carrying the nuts and bolts, I'll be covering the political side of this.